Hey everyone, Coach New here, and today I'm going to give you a simple lesson into how to talk to refs and hopefully get most of the calls to go your way. By the end of this video, I will give you 6 different ways, all interconnected to approaching officials, which should help your team get more calls. I've never met a coach who hasn't complained about officials. We all do it. Or for that matter, an official who hasn't complained about how a coach treated him. I can quickly come up with a list of at least a dozen calls which were totally inexplicable to me, impacting my team, some of which directly alter the outcome of a game. However, I doubt I would remember any calls which were favorable to my teams. That's human nature. Coaches and players win games, ask us, and in a lot of cases, refs lose them. But human nature is what this is all about. Remembering that officials are human and there are good-natured humans and others who may be a little bit less so. But regardless, every human likes to be treated well, and refs are no different. While all of us coaches have stories to tell about horrible officiating, forgetting our mistakes as a coach, I do have one quick point to make. For those young or new coaches out there, I can honestly tell you, things used to be a lot worse. Today, soccer is the most popular youth sport in this country. When I first came to America at the age of 9, it certainly wasn't. The first few years of my life were playing pickup games in the streets of Ecuador, which one person at each end of the street watching for cars. There was no age discrimination. I began playing when I was around 6, with teenagers or older. Anything to get enough people on a team. After migrating, I remember trying to teach my 4th grade mates the game during recess. Hardly anyone played, at least not in Ohio where my parents landed in the early 70s. Because of the newness of the sport in this country, you had a lot of officials who had never played or watched very little of it. That meant many learned how to ref from a book, or worse yet, they were taught how to ref, but someone who learned it from a book. It's not the same reading or listening about the game as it is to actually experience it. It wasn't until I played in college that I began to see at least average officiating. These days, a majority of refs grew up in the game and many have coached or are actively coaching. That alone has improved the quality of officiating by leaps and bounds. It's important to remember that you're not going to get every call, but you can certainly maximize the amount you get by simply doing a few things. And as I mentioned before, they're all connected. I remember as a young player or coach, I thought I knew everything, certainly more than any ref do in our games. I was never over the top obnoxious or defiant, but definitely much quicker to anger than after I became a seasoned coach. If there is one thing to remember is the old adage about catching more flies with honey than with vinegar. Yes, there are times when a call is going to be so awful that you may react without thinking and yell something out. But honestly, that serves no purpose. Good officials may already know they blew it. Bad ones may get angry at you, and your team may not get many calls the rest of the way. Remember, it's human nature. I coached for so many years at the high school and club level in northeastern Ohio that most experienced officials knew who I was. They knew that I seldom complained. Thus, when I did, I'm sure they probably figured they screwed something up. But most coaches, especially newer ones, don't have that luxury. So here are a few things that will help you. Number 1, always remember that refs are human, as we have mentioned and will continue to mention. Just like we go through different emotions on a daily basis, so do they. We seldom know what their everyday struggles are like. We just hope that they won't bring them to the game. And if they do, you hope they'll take them out on the coach who antagonizes them, because the goal here is for you not to be that coach. I always made it a point to talk to every official, or at least the center ref, prior to the contest. I know sometimes it's difficult, since you have a lot of preparation pregame. I was blessed to have some outstanding assistants in my 3 decades of coaching, so I could walk away for a few minutes before every game. If it was an official I knew, and I knew something about their life, I would start with that, keeping it lighthearted. Hey Bill, how's the family? Hey, is your son still playing with Club X? If it was someone I didn't know, I'd simply try to find something about them for future reference and break the ice this time around. Hi, sir, I'm Lou. I haven't seen you around before. Or, you're from a different part of the state. Have you seen any great players in your area? Number 2, staying on the human side. Remember, just like us, they also make mistakes. Continuously complaining about calls serves no purpose. In fact, I have some great friends who are outstanding coaches and have been doing it for a long time and still haven't learned that lesson. I often wonder how much more successful they would be if they just controlled their emotions. I have seen the officiating go totally against them after an outburst, sometimes when they were playing us, and other times when I was scouting them. Number 3, if officials respect you, chances are they will respect your players. That's what it's all about anyways, right? You want to give your teams the best chance of succeeding, and those chances go down if an official turns against you. Thus, everything I've covered so far is about earning their respect by respecting them. Number 4, you must also teach your players to respect the refs. While obnoxious coaches can turn an official against them quickly, obnoxious players can do so at an even quicker pace. That hurts the team. As coaches, we're always learning from other teams, other coaches, instructional videos, and live teaching. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen something and used it on my team. Having said that, I'll give you a little example of something I learned quite a while ago. I coach a very, very successful, always highly state ranked, regionally ranked, sometimes nationally ranked high school team. We played the toughest of the toughest in the state and sometimes out of the state as well. We had 4, 5, 6 hour road trips because we wanted to test ourselves for playoffs. We wanted to play the best teams, the best players, the best coaches. So there was a team only about an hour away from us, and it was one of the really great programs. They were actually a better program than we were at that time in the state of Ohio. And it seemed like every time we played them, it was a really close game, or we would tie, or we lose by a goal. We always struggle against them. They were talented, but it was more than that. It seemed like every time we played them, they got every call. And to be honest with you, it was frustrating. And it wasn't until I was out scouting them one day when something hit me. They were playing another very good team, and the score was 0-0 at the half. And at the half, the opposing team had gotten every single call. This school, which was a Christian school, was fortunate to not be down. And what's funny about it is, even though every call went against them, not once did any player or any coach say a word to the ref. They just put the ball down and went back on defense or did whatever they had to do. On the other hand, the other team, which was getting all the calls, they were whining about everything. And it's the first time I've seen that when the second half came around, this former school, the Christian school, got every single call. And I can't help but believe that that was because they truly respected the officials. And I learned that from that. And I'll tell you, I was always pretty tough on my players to talk back to officials prior to this. After realizing what that team did, and did so consistently, I became even more so. Anytime I saw or sensed that a player was getting frustrated, I'd immediately take him off the field so we could have a conversation. Number 5, what to do if a clearly awful call goes against you. This is one of the toughest things to handle, particularly in a tight match. The call was awful. I know it, my team knows it, the other team and coaches know it, heck, even the fans know it. So what do? I'll start with what not to do. Don't go into a tirade. Don't insult the official. Don't hint at the fact that he may be biased. None of that does any good. And chances are, if you feel like you got screwed, your players may react the same way and it could turn into a one-sided officiating fiasco. Remember, the guidelines to dissent are up to each official's interpretation. They can card any coach or player they want. So why would you make them want to? Funny thing is, I remember my first two cards at the high school level, and I didn't throw a tantrum prior to either one. I can count on two hands how many cards I got as a coach. Only one was a red, and I would do it all over again. I may put in another video, or you could subscribe and send me a comment at the end, and I'll explain what happened. Not proud of it, but I would do it again. The first yellow card I got, my team, wearing blue jerseys, was playing an away game. The center ref was wearing blue shaded sunglasses. Every call seemed to be going against us, so I simply asked, would you please take the shades off because you're seeing blue on every infraction. Yellow card. As it turns out, he became a very good high school coach, and we became very close friends. Actually coached club together at one time. The second yellow was a little different, and again, an away game. The official had a reputation for quick yellows. He was one of those that learned from a book. I complained about a call and he said, let me make the calls. I replied with, please make the right ones. Yellow card. A yellow card for that? Please make the right ones? So what do you do? I handle it in several different ways, but this is one of my favorites. If I get a bad call, I simply smile, a fake sincere smile, and just say, really? Then I add, that's okay. You're having a good game. Just remember you owe us one at some point. I usually get a smile back, and many times we'll get a call I'm not sure we should have gotten later in the game. Number 6, what to do when it seems like a ref has it out for one of your players, or if said player just keeps talking back to him. First of all, you have to fairly decide in your mind whether or not the treatment is deserved. As I mentioned before, just like coaches, there are officials who are not very good people. There are also some who think the game is about them and the fans are there to watch him or her. Unfortunately, that's a fact, and one you'll have to deal with at some point if you coach long enough. Regardless, you still have to figure out who's at fault. If it's the player, it's simple. You take him out and sternly explain to him that he's hurting the team. If it doesn't stop, he'll be sitting with the coaches for the rest of the game. In my first soccer video, TTPFF, the Ultimate Coaching Formula, I give an example of how I handled a great player who just couldn't stop chirping at the refs. Check it out. I'll put the link at the end of this video. Now, if the official simply has it out for your player, or it seems that way, then it's a little tougher to deal with. But you have to, because you don't want the ref to turn on your team for the rest of the game. Before I go on, let me explain why I said the official has it out for your player, or it seems that way. Truth is, unless you're in the field with the players, you're going to miss some things. I learned that, thankfully, as a very young high school coach. I had a big physical center back, Jack. Nicest kid in the world. But I couldn't figure out why it seemed like every game someone from the opposing team would start something with him. Why would you start something with the biggest kid on the other team? He played clean and always with a smile on his face. Then it all dawned on me in one game. The ball went out right in front of our bench. He quickly grabbed it and saw one of our wings about 20 yards upfield with plenty of room to run. He hurried to throw it in so we could quickly counter. But a player who had a beef with him moments earlier came from his blind side and headed the ball out. The opposing player just said, "Ha!" as his teammates recovered. He grabbed it again and threw it in towards the center of the field. As he's releasing the ball, he whispered, "What are you going to do now, bleep head? Bleep me?" It was quiet enough so only the opposing player and me on the bench could hear him. I asked my player, "Does he always do that?" And he said, "Yeah." Apparently, he quietly trash-talked every game. That was the moment I realized not all things are as they seem, and we as coaches will miss stuff happening on the pitch. But back to number 6. If one of your players is getting the short end of the stick and he's getting frustrated, or may have already been carded, I take him out. Now, chances are the ref will see this and probably be, respectful. You took him out to talk to him, and I'll wait till, I'm pretty sure he's watching us. And I will get on him and I'll start waving my hands face to face with him in a low tone with the player and pointing at him. And, eventually I stop. But what am I really saying? It's usually something like this. I can't believe I had to take you out because this idiot out there is making all the wrong calls, but we can't talk back to him. So don't smile, just look at me like I'm yelling at you. And that way he'll think that I'm yelling at you and I'm reprimanding you. But remember, when you go back on the field, do not say a word with him. Go up, smile, shake his hand, say you're sorry, and we'll get every call the rest of the way. Believe it or not, that stuff works. You know, a lot of times we'll get a call or two, sometimes crucial ones. The secret is to make sure he sees you and to talk low enough so he has no clue what you're saying. Sometimes it won't work. And you can't do it to the same player more than once because they'll start laughing before you start. But chances are at some point my player will smile. That will also ease his frustration, at least momentarily. So that's my advice to coaches on how to deal with officials and give you the best chance at winning. I know some of these are tough to do. After all, we're human and we're competitive. But we have to remember to put our egos aside for the betterment of the team. Over the next few months, I'm going to put out a lot more coaching videos covering every aspect. The goal is to sometime soon have practice exercises, set pieces, and complete training sessions on this channel. If you enjoyed the video or want to be notified of when the next one will be posted, please hit like and subscribe. It only takes a second and it really helps my channel, will help me put up a lot more helpful content. If you would like me to touch on any particular aspect of the game, we're also passionate about this game. Have any questions on this video or have an official story you'd like to share, especially about an official, please leave a comment. Until next time, I'm Coach Lou.